Malachi 3:11 is part of the Bible where it says, "And he will sit as a purifier of silver." And he is talking about God, the universal intelligence. And when silver is purified, it's held in the hottest part of the flame. And everything that it is not is burned away. And that's just like that beautiful song. Makes me want to cry. So today's metaphor is gardening. It's, it's Thanksgiving. It's the harvest time. It's the time of gratitude and abundance and that whole cornucopia image and all this wonderful stuff that we get to celebrate, the givingness before winter comes, when the ground becomes hard, and we're going to live off our storage, what we stored. And then, since we have become agricultural in human history, this has been a real sacred time where we really celebrate the intelligence and the givingness of Mother Earth. And so, in Truth Principles, we've often used the intelligence that's inherent in the soil itself, the seed, the plant, the fruit, the roots, all of it as a beautiful analogy of ourselves and consciousness and the intelligence that is out picturing and demonstrating as our life. And so I love it because I love gardening. And I'm a master gardener, though I haven't had a garden since I had a baby. I've been living in an apartment, but it's just like riding a horse or riding a bike. I'm really good at it and I know how to do it. And what I love about it is that what you want to remember is that you are the plant. You are the soil, you're the seed, you are the one tilling the soil, like our great reading was this morning by Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Where are you? There you are. And you are the fruit. So it's all a part of you, and you are co-creating all of it with your intention and your observer consciousness. So it's important to approach the soil like you're going to approach yourself and your life when you are saying yes to transformation. And the first thing a master gardener does is they wet the soil. You have to spend days and days slowly wetting the soil. You don't just leave a hose on high and walk away. You actually have to stand there and create the essence of rain upon the soil. And you want to do it twice a day for a long time so that slowly this love and this intelligence that is the water penetrates deep in the soil and creates a willingness. And I find this like the analogy of our own willingness, our own willingness to sit, to find something inspiring every day to read, to reach out in fellowship or come to services or take a class, take a Course in Miracles class, go to the book study, something that is nurturing. Because that water in the soil creates a malleability and it's easier to go deep. Because that's the next thing we want to do, is we want to go deep. Most people buy or they hire a rototiller. And they just get somebody or they just do it. And a rototiller only goes a foot. And it stirs up the soil. And you could go a foot and you could stir your soil and plant a seed and probably get some fruit. But it isn't going to be what's really a possibility and a full potentiality if you do what the master gardener does. What the master gardener does is they don't get a rototiller. They map out their bed and they get on their knees and they dig it row by row 2 feet. You want to go 2 feet because after that first foot, the roots really get the deep, deep minerals and nutrients of that soil consciousness after the foot. And it's when it's easy for the roots to do that because you went 2 feet down, then they produce more fruit in the life. And in the analogy of personal transformation, it's sort of like going on the surface level of your own belief systems, habitual thought patterns, the things, the lies we kind of inherited from our families and parents, and the lies about ourselves and the world. If you look at them and you kind of go a foot deep, yeah, you'll get some transformation, but what happens is at some point, those roots hit the hard compactness of what really wasn't looked at in the depth of your consciousness. And some of that's kind of dark stuff. I know for me, I find it extremely intriguing when I'm doing a real garden to keep a bucket next to me. And every time I pull out a potato bug or a moth chrysalis or a shard of glass or a rusty nail, I mean, you would be surprised what you would find getting on your knees and with your hands going 2 feet, row by row by row. And I collect it all in a bucket and look at it. And that is exactly what you are not. You are not the content that's in consciousness. Content is, your body, what you think you are, the collective human race agreement of lack, limitation, fear, doubt, and worry. You're not the content that you inherited from your mothers and your fathers or your caregivers. Fears, lies about ourselves, unworthiness, that the world is unsafe. I mean, there's just, sugar makes you fat, cancer is uncurable. These are all belief systems that we just take on and sort of live from. And it's a filter, it's a paradigm that we live from, and then the world can't help but reflect it back because we are the co-creators. So we want to go 2 feet. You really want to, and Joel Goldsmith teaches, people that take New Thought and these truth teachings on, that your life will change, and it will. If you start learning affirmative prayer and praying and sacred study and coming and fellowship, your life will shift. Things will get better. Your life structures, your health, your finances, how you express yourself in the world, your love relationships, your relationship with your family, they'll get better. But if you stay on the path of transformation and keep doing the work, eventually what is disowned and coagulated at the very depth of consciousness, or unconsciousness rather, will also begin to rise because you have indicated to the universe that you're ready. You're ready to expose all the lies, all 2 feet of them. And so they come up. And what do we do when they come up? A job falls away or a relationship dissolves or whatever. We just stay on the path. Maybe we get more support. But we don't all of a sudden think, the law stopped working. Or there's something wrong with my consciousness, or I didn't do enough forgiveness work. No. It's an indication that you're doing the work. And what you had disowned or deflected or turned away from, it's coming up to the light of your now consciousness to be seen correctly, to be requalified, transmuted, transformed by your consciousness and love. So that's the first thing you want to do, is till the soil 2 feet. And here are the keys. I told you about the water and the willingness, going 2 feet, going through all of it, inch by inch, not just stirring it with a rototiller, but really going through it, collecting everything in a bucket, looking at the bucket and knowing that is not who you are. And then you want to add in. You want to add in fertilizer and manure and the good stuff. This is your sacred study. This is having somebody to pray with, a prayer partner. This is learning what affirmative prayer technology is. This is coming to services. This is is the practices that we teach at Agape. There are principles and there are practices. And so you've got to add in that fertilizer and that manure. And there's a particular way to do it in gardening where it's easy, it's integrative. It isn't just like suddenly dumped in there, but it's stirred in a slow, methodical way so that you are integrated in it. And lastly, when you're in this part of gardening, you want to put in some chicken wire, okay? Especially in California. We have a gopher problem here. Now, I've had gardens in Colorado. That's the other place where I had a garden. And we didn't have so many gophers. I was a little more remote. But here in California, we got gophers. And you want to put up chicken wire, and I think it's a great analogy. Chicken wire is that part of us that says, you know what? I'm not going to let the mediocrity attack my quest for excellence, which is your quest for personal transformation. You know, the agreements that we have with people. I work with some high school at Youth Risk now. And, you know, that's the conversation that I'm having with them. It's like they got their bros and their homies and their gang members. And when these boys and girls are, you know, they're tired of what they're going through and they want transformation, the first thing that they realize they have to do is give up a lot of their friends. But that's that chicken wire. You've got to say, you know, this is a sacred, holy time for me. I am not going to talk to my mom about it. You know, or I'm not going to talk to that friend about it that's going to doubt and question and ask me to sign on to, you know, the mediocrity that I'm trying to dig myself out of. So put up your chicken wire. You put it in the soil. You put that chicken wire in the soil 2 feet down, which is going to protect you. You're protecting your consciousness. And sometimes, too, I remember when I first started, I could not watch the news. I had to have that chicken wire up because I was in a time in my life where I was steeping my consciousness in truth and absolute truth, like in the Course in Miracles. And the news, you know, caused an emotional experience in me that I was unable to do that. So I had to turn away from TV and the news and commercials and all of it and keep myself in a very protected container so that I could train my mind about what's real and what is perception. And now it's not like that for me. Now I watch the news. I find it quite entertaining. And it's a prayer request. I know that, you know, that's a prayer request. That is the world asking to be seen correctly, and I'm able to pray for the people, the talking heads, and everybody that they're talking about. So chicken wire. The next part that's really important to be the master gardener of your soul is to be aware of what companion planting is. Native Americans knew what this was. They called it the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash. You know, your tomato plants love basil and parsley. If you plant tomatoes, you always want to put basil and parsley around them because there's something about the acidity of the plants where underneath they love the soil, they love the same acidity. The fragrance of one attracts the right insects to help the whole group there. But if you plant melons next to your tomatoes, nobody's going to be happy. They'll fight each other. Your melons won't grow. Your tomatoes won't thrive. There's like a little battle there. And this is important for us to look at when we're setting the vision for our life and unfolding our goals and our dreams. It's important to become aware of what you've got going on there. And if there's any conflicting judgments or stances or attitudes that you have. I have a great example. I always use this example when I'm talking about this, is that I had my whole life this incredible goal to be a famous actress. And you would have thought that that was really my goal. But when I got to my mid-30s and, you know, I had a child and I was in these teachings and as a practitioner, I had to really look. And I noticed that I did not like commercials. There were no commercials that I could get behind because they either, objectified women or they were about, food products that I didn't believe in, or they were about the medical industry that I couldn't get behind. And I didn't like TV shows. Because it was all this drama or, just stuff I didn't value. In fact, I didn't even have a TV. I didn't even have a TV. So I was like, wow, that is planting melons next to my tomatoes. And here I was pretending, I really want to be an actress, But there was no part of me that was actually doing the work because I had this internal conflict going on. And I had to own that and look at that. But what I did want, the seed that I was planting, it wasn't about being an actress and having jobs on TV or in film or on stages. It was about being inspiration. That's what I did know that was the vision for my life, being a source of inspiration. Now, my idea was a lot of money, TV, all this other kind of, fantasy stuff. So that's the important part, is the intention that you plant for your life is a quality. Keep it a quality and not a doing or a having. And possibility gets really big. There's a lot to work with there. So when you're fleshing out what you think you want in your life, look past the doing and the having to what it is that's trying to be, and find an eternal quality. That's where you want to pray from. That's what you want on your vision board, is what creates that quality in your heart and in your mind. Freedom can be experienced sovereign in you, whether you are doing something that makes you feel free or not. Nelson Mandela sat in prison for 27 years and contemplated freedom and then became the president of the country and the people who imprisoned him. Okay? He was sovereign to experience that quality. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what is a memory, a fantasy, or what's actually happening. So these qualities, these intentions are your seeds. Okay? You want to make sure your companion planting, your vision, that you're planting the seeds in consciousness that is quality, not doing and having. And the seed, it's important that you choose the best seeds. When I first started gardening, I had a dream. I was 18 years old, and I had this dream. In real life, I really wanted pumpkins. I had this fantasy that I would have this big pumpkin patch, and then at Thanksgiving time, I would have my own pumpkins, and they'd be big, and I'd carve my pumpkins. I don't know why. I was young. I was 18. But in the dream, I wanted them so bad that I had all these pumpkin seeds, and I planted all the pumpkin seeds, and in the dream, the pumpkins were rotted on the vine. And I hadn't known anything about truth teaching, science mind, agape, new thought, didn't know anything about it. But I knew that meant something very deep about unchecked thought, unchecked desire, okay? Not observing yourself. And this is what we do when we have a meditation practice. Okay, you've got to start becoming really good at noticing those thoughts, which are some of them are just habitual. Reverend Michael calls it mentation. They're not even original thoughts. A lot of them are just like repeat thoughts that have been repeating, from the collective human race consciousness or the TV or whatever. Start observing them. Some of them are from childhood, look in the mirror and ooh, what did you just say to yourself quietly and silently? And within less than a second, become aware of that. And And instead of like getting upset about it, just notice, oh yeah, there's that thought again. You don't want to plant all these seeds. In gardening, you actually go through your seeds and you only pick the biggest, plumpest, healthiest seeds. And then, of course, you plant them and accordingly. Companion planting, there's a certain whole way to do it. But it's an important analogy that we become the observers and become better and better observers of what is running in our consciousness. And not to get hung up when you notice a rogue thought. That's called a weed, right? When you see a weed in your garden, you just pick it out. Especially you want to do that when it's very little. You don't let it grow. And when you pick out a weed, which is noticing that same old thought, that negative belief, you don't study it. Like, oh my God, a weed, what is that? Why is it there? No, it's a weed. You just put it in the compost and you focus on what you're growing. That's all that it is. And that's how we want to handle, the weeds in our consciousness. And it's also important to remember what a master gardener knows is that there is a time to plant the seed. If you can plant the seed anytime, really, you can. But if you're not aware of the divine timing of the organizing intelligence, then it could create doubt. So you've got to be aware that once something is planted in the law of your consciousness, it's done. And you don't go back and dig it up to see if it's taken root and started to crack and sprout. You trust that it's happening. In gardening, you want to plant in a new moon phase because it takes those 2 weeks of a waxing moon, something about the electromagnetic energy and the gravitational force, takes those 2 weeks from the new moon to a full moon for the seed to crack open and root and then have its little seedling hit the soil. And it's wonderful to come out in a full moon and you see your seedlings. But if you plant before the new moon and you're not aware of this organizing intelligence that knows what it's doing, and there's nothing wrong with planting before a new moon, but if you think that, oh my God, it's been 2 weeks and there's no seedling, it must not be working, it could cause doubt. And it could cause you to, dig up your seeds. You don't want to do that. So in the metaphor, it's new moon, full moon. But for us, it's knowing I've planted it. There is now a law working. It is an organizing intelligence inherent in the soil. I have watered, and I am watering. There is sun. This was a good seed. There is nothing going against it now. It has to happen. There's not some, it can't happen because it was the wrong seed. No, it doesn't work that way. If you plant melons, you will get melons every time. You will not get tomatoes. If you plant tomatoes, you will get tomatoes every time. Yeah, if the soil is hard, if it's not watered, if there isn't a lot of sunlight, you might not get a seed, you might not get a plant, or if you get one, it will struggle, but it will still happen. But if you know you're doing the work of the gardener, it is inevitable. It is a promise. It is a law. And that's what we want to remember in the planting of our seeds. So the last part of the whole metaphor that is so beautiful is that we have 5 minutes, great. My neighbors were always jealous of me. I always had 10 times as much fruit. It's funny because very seldom did they come up and ask me, how do you do it? They never asked. But I know that they were eyeing my garden because it was just huge abundance of fruit because it was so easy for the roots. And what's important to remember about the fruit is that you're not the thing getting enjoying the fruit of your life. So if you plant the intention of abundance, that's the quality, right? It's not about getting abundance in the end. You are the plant. You are the vine. You are the seed. Okay? You plant, you tilled soil. That's law, consciousness. And now the abundance is what is actually coming through you. You're not the thing that's eating the abundance and getting something. You're the plant where abundance is expressing through you. That's the beautiful thing to remember. So you want love, you want intimacy, you want passion in your life. It's going to happen through you. It's not something you're going to get. You want freedom, you want creativity. It's not something you're going to get. It's going to happen through you. And that's the part that is really beautiful if you remember to keep your intention on a quality. Here I am not a famous actress, but I am being inspiration in this community, and the Agape community, and other communities in the North. And that's the beauty. I could have never thought that up. At the time, I never thought, I'm going to talk to people about the truth or about love or God. I didn't know that. I just knew, I wanted to have something. I wanted to have some kind of career, where I got to express myself. But here it is, being inspiration. And so just remember that you are the fruit. You are the gift. You are the vessel where the love intelligence that created the universe is answering. Everybody is knocking on the door of your consciousness and of your heart saying, could you love me? Could you see me correctly? Could you know the truth about me? And you are the answer to that. Your life is the testimony that all things are possible. That it is your birthright, it is the birthright of everyone that you encounter, that they experience and express love and fulfillment and freedom and joy and beauty. You're the platter of fruit that the Spirit said, here's the answer. It's happening through you. And so with that, let's do a quick prayer, shall we? How grateful I am to just celebrate this time of year, celebrating the infinite givingness of God. To know truly that this love, this joy, this beauty, that it is the very source and substance of all that is. It is the only thing occurring, this organizing love, organizing intelligence, organizing creative genius. To know that it is everywhere, seen and unseen, perceived and unperceived by our senses. It is a law. And I know it is what we are. We are this very thing itself. And so it is from this knowing of our oneness that I call forth dynamic health, vitality, and well-being. I call forth abundance and prosperity, philanthropy and givingness. I call forth freedom and creativity and joy and adventure in God. For God created each of us so that He could celebrate and experience the adventure of our lives through us. I am knowing that we are the fruit, the fruitage. We are the vine. We are the intelligence. We are the potentiality. And everything in our lives is working for our highest good. There is nothing that can stand against us, for God planted us. God created us. God unfolds us. And so with a grateful heart, I just give such great thanks that my word is a living law, and I know it is so. Together we say, and so it is. Amen. It's time for our sacred offering. It's time now to bless our gifts and tithes and offerings as the ushers are coming forward. I just want you to take a minute as you prepare your gifts and find at least one thing to be grateful for. Just pour that energy of gratitude into your gift, whether it's $1,